Today's session is session 42 with Dynamics User Group India. Today's speaker we have as Brad, and the topic is about customs X++ services in finance and operation. I will try to have some group introduction with you guys. So we started back, I think, 2.5 years almost. We started this journey, and we are now globally around 3,200 members and increasing. The main driver of this particular session, I would say this particular group, is our Rachit Garg, who is recently awarded as MVP. And second backup is by Deepak Agarwal, and then followed by Umesh. This is me, and Satya Kejriwal sir. He's also based in Sydney. Rachit is also based in Sydney and sorry, in Melbourne, and Deepak is based on UK, but both are traveling to India. So it is true Dynamics 365 user group hosting from India today. This is our LinkedIn pages if you would like to follow, and LinkedIn Twitter handle, as well as we have YouTube channel. So any recording which we do or any session we do, we actually record it and post it in our YouTube channel. This is our YouTube channel with this latest recording done. And today's session, you know that it is Brad, who is having 13 more than 13 years of experience into Dynamics world. I will not delay. I will not bore with my group introduction. Let's begin with Brad. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, let me quickly share my screen. Please give me a shout when you can see the screen coming through.
Sure. Yep, we can see that.
It's visible.
Perfect. Thanks everyone. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, so agenda for today is to discuss about custom services. How do we write them in F&O? Did I miss one slide? No. How do we create custom services in finance and operations? How to expose them? What setup do you need both on finance and operations side and on Postman, and how to test any endpoints you expose through custom services. So that's me. I use a bit newer picture here because, as Deepak mentioned earlier, I had way too much hair on the previous picture. So I changed a bit last few years. Anyway, as mentioned, I'm working as finance operations developer, software engineer for more than 13 years, relying quite heavily on the community in the meantime. And finally, it's time for me to start giving back to community. So it's my first user group presentation today. So please do go easy on me in case I make any mistakes. So what is custom service in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations? In simple words, it's just a way to expose APIs to wider world to process any custom business logic. Any custom service created have two endpoints for SOAP and JSON communication. And for the purpose of today's presentation, we focus mostly on the JSON side. And we use in custom services mostly in the cases where the standard data entities capabilities are a bit more too limited, and with the custom service, it's all code-based, done by developers. We have full control what's going on within the system. And from my technical point of view, it's a bit better approach than rely on data entities. But yeah, I might be biased here. So going further, to create custom service, we need to have contract classes, which are request and response, which pretty much specifies the data structure for what you're going to receive in finance and operations and what the system is going to return to the other side. So here we have simple example of contract class with just one parameter. To create contract class, the whole class takes a data contract attribute and then any data member, any method to actually expose specific parameters outside have data member attribute, and within that attribute you provide the name which is going to be externally visible for your endpoint. So in this case, this simple example have just one string parameter called external data name, and yeah, the rest is just a default parm method, as we all know quite well. So it takes one parameter and assign the value to update and assign the value to the variable. So this is really simple example of contract class. Now, I have a bit more complicated example here of request contract class, which is the input parameters for the finance and operations to process something. And in this case, it's quite simple contract to create sales order, which I will showcase hopefully on the live demo if everything works fine. So what we have here, we have three parameters. One of them is data area ID. One of them is list, which is going to contain sales orders lines to create, and one of them is another contract class, which contains all the details for sales order header creation. And again, as mentioned before, every single parameter, every single variable have a parm method with the data member name exposed for the outside. So we have data area ID, we have sales order header, which as I mentioned is a type of yet another contract class, and we have list of sales order lines. And again, this is the list, but it contains the another contract class which contains all the values for the sales lines. So that's how you create request contract in this case for the sales order creation with multiple lines. Example of response class. In this case, we return again three values. One of them is just Boolean to specify if the request was processed successfully or not. Second is sales order ID to return ID of the sales order created, and the last one is the list of errors if any errors occurs. And again, some parm methods for all of them, and simple new constructor for the new method, simply to initiate our list in the right type. Any questions so far, or can we move forward? Am I going too fast? Should I go a bit more detailed through every single parm method? If people keep quiet, I'll just
Bit
keep
more detail,
going.
please.
Sorry?
Bit more detail.
Bit more details. Okay. So this response contract class, it's what custom service will return as a response for the request I went through a bit earlier. So this is just a contract class. It's just a simple description of what data are going to be returned. We have three variables which going to store again the true false for the success. Then we have a string with sales ID, which going to return sales order number if sales order will be created and request will be processed correctly. And then we have error list, which is again list of another contract class which contains the errors. And we have to create both construct and new method simply to initialize any lists in that response. So first parm method here, parm success, it takes the Boolean as a parameter, true false, and then adjust variable based on that value and returns that adjusted value. The same with sales ID, just take simple sales ID string as a parameter, adjust the variable and returns it. List is a bit more complicated because have a bit more attributes simply because it's a list. So we have to specify what collection type and which parameter of from our method is that collection, and that it's underscore error list parameter, which is type of class, and it takes this specific class as a list of class objects for the list. I'll go later on through code in Visual Studio as well to showcase bit better how all the bits and pieces go together as well. So I'll just jump to next slide. So we covered contract classes, which is input and output of the custom service. And now let's go to business logic of the service, which specifies how the service will actually work. So again, left column is the top of the code, right column is bottom of the code.
They are
Service
also, but I don't want. I have this thing.
Sorry, I just muted. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't think it was a question for me. Okay, so service class have to always extend sys operation service base class. And as most of the classes, we do have simple construct which returns new instance of itself. And then we might have various methods, public or private as any other class. So if the method like this one, create sales order, is public, then you can use that specific method as a service method for your service object in the AOT. So here we have public method create sales order, which takes as a parameter our request contract class we showcased a few slides ago, and it returns our response contract class, which we just showed on the previous slide. So what's the logic between the service? We simply validate the request first, which is method on the right hand side in here. It's a really simple validation here for the purpose of that demo and presentation. So we just simply checks if the request was not null. If the request was null, we palm our response success as false. We add error to the list, and then we return that response. Otherwise, we return empty, just the initialized response without setting up any values. So that's really simple validation. And then if the response of validation was successful, we adjust data area ID. And then we trigger create sales order, create SO method, which takes request and response as a parameters, which in here I didn't want it to paste too much code, so it takes parameters, then implements all the business logic to actually create sales order, do extra additional validations if necessary inside in here, and then it returns response, which later is returned by our service method, and that's going to be parsed as a JSON and returned to the caller of the API. What I found really useful is to looking at this service class which extends its operation service base. What I found really useful is to put one more class in between all your service classes and sys operation service base, simply to expand on the default framework and also ensure consistency across all the custom services you're going to create. So In this case, for example, I created custom service base class, which is abstract, which have two abstract methods, get JSON response, get JSON request. And by creating those abstract methods, we ensure that any custom service created based on this base class have to follow those two methods, have to implement them. And also we have additional two methods here, save request, save response, because this operation framework don't actually stores too much value by default what's going on with any request. Throughout my career, I found it's really useful to actually store any incoming requests, store any responses. So in case of something went wrong, it's much easier to trace the issues or try to resolve them. And for purpose of that, we can implement simple table. I called it custom service messages, but might be called whatever you want, with few simple fields: service name, request text, which is memo field, and yeah, if I remember correctly, it had created date, time enabled as well. So we can sort later on everything by the time. So by using this class, any service, which I'll show later through the code, have by default capability of storing any incoming request and any responses provided by the service. So we covered all the classes, all the code which you have to create to have nice and working custom service. Now, how do we actually expose custom services? First thing is to create a service object within AOT. And here we have two screenshots. First one is showcase parameters of the service object itself when you obviously pointing out to specific service class. And then second screenshot showcase what are the nodes in service object, and the nodes in here are just simply any methods you want to expose from your service class through the service. So in this case, it's create sales order request, get JSON request, get JSON response, and those three methods will be exposed through API. Worth to mention that you can give different name for your endpoint than the method name itself. So I could just call that endpoint here create SO, and still could call create sales order method from the class. And then to actually deploy service itself, it have to be added to service group object. So again, I created really simple custom services service group, and in here you just simply add in specific AOT services. So with all those steps, when you build and compile your project with all those objects, the endpoint should be ready to use. Now, how to use it? First thing, we have to register application through Azure. And I just put here a few simple steps, but my colleague Deepak described it much better in his blog, so I'm not going to go through all of that. The main clue is to get application registered in Azure, get all the client ID, tenant ID, secrets, because we need to use those in Postman and F&O to be able to actually integrate with the system. But all the steps are described really nicely in Deepak's blog, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, especially that I was asked not to showcase the Azure we are using for purpose of that demo, not to expose any values from it. So next step, when we set up, when we register application for the specific finance and operations environment in Azure, we have all those values, client ID, tenant ID. First thing we have to do is to set up, do the setup within the finance and operations. So system administration setup, Microsoft Entra ID applications. They keep renaming that that form, but that's the current name, if I'm not mistaken. You just simply have to put client ID from Azure. You give it a name, just a string. You can choose whatever you want, and then you have to choose the user. User is important because that user have to have access to whatever business logic tables you want to use within your service. And if your service doesn't expose data area ID, it will always work by default in the context of default company from that user integration is set up for. So that's the only bit we have to do within finance and operations. Now we can move on to Postman setup. First thing we have to do in Postman is to create new environment, and here we have to populate quite a lot of values from Azure, which I mark as a secret here. So we need to have finance and operations URL. We need client secret, client ID from Azure. We need tenant ID from Azure, and then scope as well. Scope is pretty much exactly the same value as the URL, just with the /default at the end of it, and it's needed to get the authentication token. So access token from Azure, so we can actually authenticate our connection. So that's how you're setting up environment. When you have environment ready in Postman, it's really important to choose that environment here in that dropdown as your default environment. So whatever endpoints you try to call or whatever variables you want to use, it always refers to values from that specific environment. Next step is to create a collection. So here in Postman on the left-hand side, we're just moving from environment to collections, and then we can start creating all the APIs we want to call. Collections are really useful. You can export whole collections. You can share collections with other users. So just really nice ways of grouping all the different endpoints and integrations together. Really important step within collection we always have to use is to get access token, which we're going to use later on for any to run any integrations. So you always have to send the post request to that specific URL, where tenant ID in here is your tenant ID from the environment. So that's how we're using those variables later on in Postman. The body of that request should contain all those values exactly like that. So we need client underscore ID, which is client ID from the environment, client secret again from the environment. Grant type, it's client credentials, and then scope, again the specific value from the environment. And when we send that request, again we have current environment chosen here, so it will load all those variables correctly. We got our response with our bearer token. It's really long string. It's just like one line out of 10-ish. So then we have to copy that access token value and paste it here to our environment as a current value. And this access token later on will be used in all the endpoint connections. So just to summarize the theory part of it, custom services are flexible and highly customizable way to create integrations, which offers much more capabilities than default data entities. And again, I would strongly suggest to use one class in between the operation framework service-based class and all your services, just to ensure consistency. If you create new bunch of new services, they all will be looking the same and have the same feel. So live demo now. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll take it as a no.
Yes, sorry, but there were
Yep.
two questions primarily. One from Firoz. He said why we add data contract and what is the role of this in system class. My response was data contract are used to deal with parameters for your request and response messages. Do you want to add anything on this?
Not much to add. So a data contract class, it specifies what it pretty much describes what your custom service will expect to receive to process, and also what custom service is expected to return. So if you want to get the values from the specific invoices, you're just going to expect invoice number, so you can send back like what's the total number, for example, what's the total value of the invoice. If you want to get I don't know, if you want to create sales order, you need to send all the customer details, item details, quantities, and so on. So that's what your custom service will expect to receive, and that's what contract class describes. It just specifies what's your input and output of the service.
Okay. I have one more question.
Yep.
We are you are making a one method of the error list. So suppose we have assumed that the customer number, item number both is not present. So this error method is so the list of errors in one payload as a response.
Yeah, why the list, not just one specific response? Assuming the customer number was correct and you want to create 20 sales order lines, but you send three items which doesn't exist, and system will create 17 lines and return 3 errors that line with this item was not created, line with this item was not created. So you can return a message like that to whatever was the requester, so they can correct the values or something. There's a possibility to simply do not call any insert and do the rollback in the system, just abort transaction, not to insert anything. So there's a lot of options why we might have list of the errors. You might in this case we send in one sales order, but you might wrap it up the whole contract like this into yet another list and expect like list of sales orders to be created if there's like one big bulk update happening like once a day from the other system, and then you might create 20 orders and 3 for some reason won't be created, so you can return those errors instead of one big string. You can just return the list, like this went wrong because of that, this went wrong because of that. So list is more useful, but in case you have just one error, it simply will have like one entry, but gives more possibilities than just flat string.
Okay. Means the what error we were doing on the front end, the same error we are getting on the via the payload.
Depends how the integration is designed. You might have like synchronous integration when whatever is going on the front end on the other side of the integration outside of Dynamics, it just sends like data straight away and return answers quite quickly, or you might have like bulk updates and so on. So it's all the matter of how the integration is used. I guess it's yeah,
Okay.
various ways of Yep.
Yeah, I have another question. Suppose we have a lot of sales order is there. So we have syncing the order, too much order quanta I have. So I am going to the running the clone of any other applications. That clone is continuously hit the order in every second. Is there impact on the base interface on the F&O part? Is slowness or something locking issue?
There's always some impact, but I guess it's just a matter of scaling your production environment correctly so it can handle. But you know, if you send a lot of requests which reads a lot of data, it might lock those data temporarily as well. So some of the front end users who actually use the F&O might see some issues that that they cannot do something simply because the integration keep locking the records, for example.
Means maybe some getting some slowness issue at the as a front end of user level to sync the data in continuously on a very bulk quanta. So is there any way to enhance this one instead of web service or what any other solutions?
I've again depends on the specific needs, so it's hard to give like really generic answer. But if you have like really first thing, if the integration don't have to be synchronous, you can just store it in some additional table and then create a bad job to work on dedicated server outside working hours to process all of that. If integration have to be synchronous and respond quite fast, it's just a matter of optimizing all the code to only load and update whatever is strictly necessary. If you have one big update, you might try to again create additional table and try to use quite clever update record set with the right joins, so you can update multiple records within one transaction instead of going in while select statement. So there's a lot of ways developers can try to optimize any like heavy integrations, but if there's a lot of data to be processed, then there's a lot of data to be processed, and you know, you have to process those data. You need to have resources to do it.
Okay. It means you want to create a separate customized table and pull that data on the customized table, and later on we can make a clone or something instead of directly.
Sticking with, for example, with the sales orders, right? So if you have like every 20 seconds you have 100 sales orders to update, and you got like massive input with those 100 sales orders, instead of going while select sales order, update this, update, change those values, update, instead of going with massive loop like that, what you can do, you can inject all of your input into separate table. Then you can run update record set, well, sales ID is equal sales ID from that other table you have, and update all those fields to those, so you have just one update instead of loop of multiple updates. And then you can clear your table after that. Should work faster in theory and shouldn't lock records for being updated for so long as well. But again, hard to give 100% correct answer on quite generic question without actually investigating specific issue of specific interface.
Yeah, I got it. Understand. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think we can move ahead.
Okay, so just to showcase all the details from the presentation, so I have all the classes here. So for example, let's look at sales order request, which is sales order service request, which is this class. Again, it have all those three parameters, and param methods for those parameters. So let's quickly jump into sales order header request, which is just one parameter in here, but itself it is a contract class as well, which specifies what we need or what we might need to create sales order header. So we need customer account. We might want to get a requested delivery date. We might want to get order type or order date, ship to, if there's like new address to be created or something. So we might have just a few variables like in this case, or we might have many more. Again, I just try to create quite simple example in here. So that's what we need in this case to create sales order header. Then we also have sales order line, which in our web request is list of that class. So if you look at the lines, we expect item ID, sales quantity, sales unit, price, some additional values which we might use or might not. So that's how the request looks like. And what we're doing with that request. If I look at sales order service class, which implements all the business logic, this is the method we use for that integration. So we receive that request. We go to validated. Validation here is a bit longer. So we check in if the request is not null. If the request is not null, then we check in if data area ID was provided. Then if it was provided, we check in if company exists. If company exists, we check in if the header was sent, and then if the lines were sent, or if the customer exists, and so on. So we might have a lot of things inside the validation itself, which again, if multiple errors at once, because not everything is in if else. There might be multiple errors at once, so we might group them all together and then send the response. If the validation was successful, then we change in company to whatever was sent to us, and we process order within that company. And again, here, because in this case we extending that custom service base, which had which is abstract class with some abstract methods, we can use save request, save response, and the same. For example, if the response was not successful straight away and failed the validation, we can save request, save response within the default company for the user integration works, and because we're not going to jump into change company. And then we're going to return the response, but assuming company exists, validation was successful, we're going to jump to create sales order method. And again, in here, it's just a simple logic to create sales order. So this bit of the validation, I simply put in here, not in the validation method, because I didn't want it to load customer twice. And here, because we need to load the customer to create a sales order, I moved that bit of the validation in here simply so we don't have to load the same record twice or pass it around between different methods. Then, quite simple, if the response is still successful, we create sales order header. We have nice catch in here, and again, we're using a method from a parent class, which is a really nice method to catch the last error from the info log. So whatever throw the error, we can fetch that and return it into list of our errors as well. And then in case of error, of course, we parse response as success false and add the error to the list. But assuming everything went fine, sales order is created, we're just going to iterate through lines. And again, few checks. If item exists, if quantity is different, is higher than 0, then we're trying to insert the line. So again, logic for the purpose of that demo is quite basic. Any questions so far regarding the code?
Yeah. Can you go to the customer block from methods where are you checking the customer is blocked?
In validation?
Yeah, in validations.
Yep.
Yeah, here. Wait.
Lower. Yeah, I just check if the customer exists. I don't actually load the customer, and I parm here the customer from request, sales order header request, parm cast account. So if customer doesn't exist, just
No, there is a when you write the code key that the customer is blocked, then you are showing some message. I want to discuss that method.
yeah, I didn't create any. So obviously the issue with the code, I don't have any label files. So the text should be in the label file if we want to stick with the best practices. But again, for the purpose of the demo, it should be enough. And yeah, that validation just simply checks if the customer exists. Assuming so, first check is, do we even have a cast account provided? If not, we throw an error that customer account cannot be empty, and then we check if the customer with that account exists. Yep.
You have writing the code. This customer code is blocked. You are writing such type of code.
Yeah, that one I pushed to create sales order.
Wait. Yeah, this one.
Yep.
No. Line number 65. Start from the line 65.
Yep.
If the customer is blocked, it means you are showing the any customized method, or is come the base method. The customer is blocked. I'm a little bit confused this code.
No, it's the original code. So any customer have you can block the customer due to various reasons, and that's a standard enumerator on any customer when you can block customer for all the transactions or just one for some specific ones. So customer can be blocked in the system by default. Just not everyone is using it. I still refer to some old label files here.
If that customer is blocked, what actual error we are getting at the time of hitting the request in the payload and the Postman?
Yeah.
Customer,
So if the customer,
yeah,
if the customer is blocked, then we going to go inside that if statement. We're going to build nice error response that we have error 500, customer not found. Type of the exception error. We're going to add that to the list of errors. Then we parm response success as false, which means we skip any creation of the objects, and we're going to return that response with the errors. So we should, if the customer is blocked, we should receive the error that customer is blocked. Sorry, no lag.
Okay. Got it. Understand.
But again, this code is quite simplified for the purpose of the demo. It might don't fit all the purposes or all the possibilities we need to validate, or it should cover the basics. Okay, so that's the code. Now service itself. Again, service property points to a specific class, and we can give different external name. And service operations specify which exact methods are exposed through that service, and then that service have to be added to a service group. And if we look at the properties of that, it just simply specifies what service we are using, what service or services, we might add multiple nodes, we are using within that group. So that's the finance, that's the Visual Studio F&O side. Now let's move on to Postman. So this is the exact environment which was on the PPT deck. So we have all the values. We have specific collections as well. So first thing we always have to do is to get a specific authorization token. Again, exact same is on the screenshot. So if on the screenshot in the presentation. If I send that, we can copy all this long access token, go to our environment, update current value, save it, and now we are good to go with any request. How the request itself look like? So looking at, for example, get JSON request method, it always contains your F&O URL, API services / your service group name / your service name / your method name from that service. And why I always use that custom service based class, simply because it enforces us to use those methods, and they are really useful because when I send get JSON request, I have pretty much exact request. I can copy to actually create sales order. For some reason, it always adds ID1, ID2, ID3. We don't need those, but then this request I can pretty much copy paste to create sales order. Just add the bit with the request because we always need to specify what exact parameter we send in. And then those values are exactly the same as what get JSON request expected. That's why this method is really useful, because to test your integration later on, you just simply copy the values from here, adjust them a bit, put them within your specific parameter, and just populate with the values. So now if I want to create sales order for the given customer, let me duplicate that quickly. So if I send that, sales order was created. So if I quickly jump to finance and operations, so no errors, sales order 914 was created, success, true. And as I said, it always adds that ID to any new object from the response.
Okay, order is created successfully now.
Yes. So it was this order 194. If I jump into it, it should have two items, A1, A2,
Okay.
2 and 3 quantities, so exact the same as our request. We wanted item 2, 3, quantity 3. We wanted item 1, quantity 2, and exactly that was created. So if I try to create item like that, we have success true, sales order was created, but item not found line not created, because that's what the logic was told to do. Create whatever you can, return the error. So we do have sales order created, and then whatever actually utilize that integration on the other side, they already know that this order is created. So in case someone actually cat jumped on my keyboard and all those chars shouldn't be there, they can correct it, press send again, because we already returned sales orders ID. They might only send the update for the remaining clients and so on. So the other side of the integration can do their due diligence and proper logic for the integration as well. The other option we could have is just to quickly abort all transactions, don't create anything, and just say false. No order was created due to those errors. So we have different options. If I give incorrect customer name, again, we didn't even attempt to create the lines. Customer account is not valid. If I delete customer, it goes through the exact same validations, right? Success is false. We didn't create anything because customer account cannot be empty. If I remove company or put company which doesn't exist, again, we have the proper validations.
Okay.
So yeah, any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. Can you click on the get JSON request?
Yep.
This is the
So
this is the method name, no? I want to see
yes.
this method body.
Yep. So get JSON request is a method in our service. Let me quickly jump that here. So get JSON request, it's quite simple because we know what our request is. We can always so the request always use that request base. So any request I'm creating, extend that base simply so it matches that return in here, just child object of this one. So we can initialize request. We can initialize. So we know our request requires this contract class, so we can create new object, insert here. Then we know we have list of lines, so we can initialize the list, create new lines, and parm it to our response. So it requires a bit of manual work for every single service you're creating. Also, in this simplified design, you can only pretty much create one get JSON request, get JSON response per service. And if you want to create one like sales order service, which can create, update, do this, do that, you might have to create much more method. For example, get JSON request, create, get JSON response, create, and so on. It doesn't stop you from doing that. It just enforces you to do at least the bare minimum and create those two methods, because otherwise your class won't compile, because those are abstract methods.
Yeah, got it. Go to the Postman again. Yeah, so in the service group, we have provided the service name, service group, and then we put the value. Okay, got it. It's a very nice approach.
Yeah, it's a service group, service, and the method from the service. So if we go back here, we have service group. Service group have a specific service, right? And that service have those three methods, and you can name them different, right? It calls get JSON response method, but you can simply call it for the integration get response, and then that name would be what you have to use in your Postman call, because that name is the external name we expose into the world through the API. Any other questions?
I have one more question. Suppose
I think Bart, for this, as we are running out of time, we need to respect everyone's time. So I would request to Faisal, for any question you can maybe reach out to Bart.
Yeah, you got my email.
Yeah.
Just reach out to me directly. I'll try to respond probably at night for you if you're based in India. But yeah, we can always schedule some call and discuss it a bit more in details if necessary.
Okay. I will ask on the mail the questions.
Yep, no worries. Okay, thank you everyone. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, so floor is open for questions. Probably we can take some of the questions at the end now. So Deepak, any questions in the chat window?
I think there's only just one question, and that's also from me, basically. So, Bart, just to kind of out of curiosity.
Is it just me or just lost Deepak?
Hey Deepak, you're lost.
Yep, no questions from Deepak then. Another.
Yeah, so Deepak is traveling, might be some network issue. Yeah, we can entertain any question.
Might have been tricky one. If we don't have any questions, then again, thank you for having me today. I hope it might be useful for at least some of you.
Yeah, definitely. It was a good session, and I would say it was a great session. So we'll wait for a few more minutes for Deepak to turn on. And those who wants to leave the call, please, they can drop off. Should be fine. We'll
Okay.
just give 5 minutes more to Deepak, and then let's see.
Okay. Thank you. Boss.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Rose, thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having us here. Okay, Deepak, please wrap up the session. Okay, so he has said that we can wrap up the session, and Brad, Deepak will ping you one-to-one. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Brett, once again, and it was a really great session, and I really thank you for your patiently delivering and do asking, like listening to the questions and answering them. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I know I can go quite fast sometimes, so I try to slow down, but yeah.
No, it was good. It was fast initially, but you slowed down while you thought of other participants. So it's good. Thank you very much. That's appreciated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Take care. Bye bye.